In my last video, I went over 20 Thomas characters that I really love. I love them for their design, or their character development, or just their general personality. That being said, I think we all know Thomas and Friends has had some pretty bad characters over the years. Today, I'm going to be taking 4 of the worst characters from the show and turning them into something at least semi-alright. Please subscribe to boost my ego, and let's talk about rubbish characters. So first of all, I had to choose the characters that I was going to be rewriting. I tried to go with characters from a wide variety of time periods that had at least some potential to be improved. My end choices were Jeremy from Season 10, Billy from Season 11, the Logging Locos from Misty Island Rescue, and Nia from Bwubba. Before we begin, it's worth noting that all the story ideas that I present here are not free to adapt. Please do not try to recreate them without my permission. Anyway, let's start with Jeremy. Jeremy is a very boring character. Introduced in the Season 10 episode Thomas and the Jet Plane, he is essentially just a typical non-rail character that thinks his mode of transport is better than rails. This was a cool idea in Season 1 with Terrence or in Season 2 with Harold, but here it was just pointless and lazy writing for a potentially interesting character. So I began to rewrite Jeremy, and this is what I came up with. Jeremy is quite a friendly plane, but he suffers from forgetfulness and is often distracted by things in the sky. He's quite short-sighted, and this means he often mistakes passing birds for UFOs or similar. He's in a world of his own in the sky, and is only really in his right mind when he's on the ground, although he doesn't know that. In my idea of Jeremy's debut story, he would arrive on Sodor to trial the new concept of a Sodor Air Express. Gordon realises that if Jeremy's Air Express is successful, his express will likely be downgraded or altogether removed. However, when Gordon is pulling the express one day, around a bend the rails have sunk down into the ground due to soft mud under the tracks. Jeremy is flying above with his Air Express trial and shouts down to Gordon, warning him. Gordon stops just in time and is saved from a nasty accident. Gordon thanks Jeremy for saving him, and express passengers choose to travel by both air and rail. It's a rather simple concept, but one I feel could work and make an interesting new character in the process. In future episodes, I feel that Jeremy could be a plot device to tell other engines the stories of the mainland where he has travelled. However, I imagine he might exaggerate those stories quite a bit. Let's move on to an even worse character, one of the most hated characters of all time, Billy. Billy was quite a bit harder to rewrite than Jeremy. Billy's character in the show is that he's essentially as annoying as possible, speaking in a stupid voice and always telling the others that they are bossy. I wanted to keep a little bit of that so it would still be the same character, but there was a lot of work to do in making him even mildly likeable. So here's how I'd write Billy. In my version, Billy craves independence. He does work hard, but he always thinks he can do any given job by himself. When offered help, he always refuses it, even when he knows he needs it. In his rewritten debut episode, he is brought to the island to help Mavis and Bill and Ben at the quarry with their biggest job yet. He is assigned to shunting the trucks of stone which Bill and Ben have collected from the far end of the quarry, where the blasting work is going on. He does this, trying to be as quick, useful, and impressive as he possibly can be. However, in the process, he breaks his safety valve. Although he is in pain, he thinks that to be really useful, he must not show it and keep tackling his jobs. He is told to help Bill and Ben with the blasting work, and he takes a truck of dynamite over to where they are working to do just that. However, when he comes within the blasting radius, he is told to reverse, but the pain in his safety valve grows and he can't move. Bill and Ben pull him out of the blast zone just before the dynamite goes off in time. Bill and Ben are declared heroes, and Billy learns a lesson about asking for help. I also imagine this episode could be home to some funny jokes about the similarity between Bill and Billy's names. So that's Billy. I'm pretty proud of what I did with him. I think it turned the really useful engine trope on its head a little bit, showing that there's more than one way to be really useful. However, what's coming next is far, far harder to fix. I am going to have to fix the Logging Locos and their place within the worst movie the franchise has ever seen. Please note that this isn't me rewriting the whole of Misty Island Rescue. It's a movie that is far beyond redemption, and the concept of Misty Island itself just makes no sense. However, we can make its inhabitants a little more logical. Let's do this. Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand live on Misty Island, just like in the movie. However, they're all rather different from each other. Ferdinand is an old and wise character, but suffers from the flaw of extreme paranoia. There's some interesting story potential in that trait alone. Bash and Dash are actually polar opposites. Bash is very reserved, quiet, and a bit of a worrier. Dash tends to speak for his brother as well as himself, and is outgoing and a little cheeky. Now that we've looked at their characters, let's get into their history. Essentially, the three logging locos were sent to work on the logging railway on Misty Island when their old railway closed down, and they hated it. They refused to do work so much that eventually the owners of the logging company gave up and left Misty Island altogether, leaving it as abandoned as we see it in the movie. And the logging locos became so lonely over time that they began to work again with all the equipment that was left. They hoped that maybe if they worked and worked and worked, then the people who had owned them might come back. However, no one did. At the time of the movie, when Thomas arrives, they're very lonely and are shocked to see another engine for the first time in decades. When they learn about Sodor, they want more than anything to go back with Thomas. But Thomas is a little preoccupied with the fact that he may never see his friends again, and simply wants to get there himself. Ultimately, however, when he gets lost on Misty Island, he realises he can't do this alone. The logging locos come to his rescue, and after the tangled series of events that is the second act of the movie, the four companions discover the tunnel to Sodor. Ferdinand thinks going in is unwise, but Thomas contradicts him and says that it'll lead somewhere else than Misty Island, and wherever that is, it's a good place to be. They go into the tunnel and get trapped in there, and then are rescued by Percy, Whiff, Diesel, whoever you really want. To be honest, I'm not the happiest with this retcon, as I feel it didn't make the logging locos a big enough presence in the movie. They're more just random characters who tag along with Thomas the whole time. But it is a vast improvement over the original, and that is, at the end of the day, what we're going for here. And finally, Nia. Nia is a character that was introduced in the Bwubba era, and in this retcon, it's important to get something straight. She is not on the Steam team or even in the main cast. This retcon will simply let her have a few episodes and then disappear off the scene, but hopefully will give her a really interesting character. So we meet Nia in the movie pretty much as it happened in the show, and she comes to Sodor with Thomas at the end. Moving into season 22, Nia's main character trait is that she's very, very trusting, almost too trusting of others. This means she's completely unaware of Diesel's schemes, and ends up getting into trouble because of one of his tricks. She doesn't realise Diesel was behind it, and so she thinks the problem was with her, and she runs away to some random part of Sodor in shame. Diesel realises what he has done and goes to search for her, and when he finds her, he is torn between telling her the truth and simply telling her that she can come back. In one of his few moments of bravery, he tells her that he was behind the trick. Although Nia isn't exactly pleased, she accepts his apology and the two become good friends. The main problem I had with Nia is that she was simply perfect. There aren't really any flaws to her character in Bwubba, and although being overly trusting isn't necessarily a really crippling flaw, it's still something that can create interesting story ideas with the likes of Diesel. Maybe Nia could even be paired up with my retcon version of Ferdinand, to show the clash of extreme trust and extreme paranoia. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It was a really fun challenge, and hopefully you like my new versions of the characters. Tell me how you'd retcon these bad characters and other bad characters in the comments below. This has been the Thomas Cynic, thank you for watching, and until the next time, have a good one.